Okay, so good afternoon, everyone, and it's great to have everybody here today. And I've had great sessions in the last few months, even years, really. And so it's great to have everybody here. Of course, many of you already know me. My name is Christian Harrison, and I'm privileged to be facilitating the research seminar series of the school. And today we are going to have a great one, no pressure. And we're going to be looking at something very apt. But of course, before we proceed, I'd like to tell everybody thank you for coming, and that's very important. Feel free to use the chat. I know many of you already know each other. Before we started, and we had that conversation. So you can still use the chat to communicate for those of you in London, and those of you that have wrong names like Munira. So feel free to introduce yourselves. And so it's great to have everybody here today. And like I said, I know it's the Easter break. Many of you are going to go Easter egg hunting. So hopefully you do some Easter egg hunting and during the weekend, but don't take too much chocolate because you don't want to have calories when you come. Don't have too many calories when you come back. But either way, it's great to have everybody here today. And like I said, today we'll be looking at something very apt. And I'd like to tell Shaif, thank you for doing this, because when I reached out to him, I know it's not easy to commit to this kind of things, especially when you have people coming for different reasons. And so you know that, yes, you're going to be asked some thorough questions and, of course, some friendly questions as well. But, of course, we have an expert that's going to look at exploring social responsibility, actually from the perspectives of Scottish micro business operators. So that's what we're looking at. And this is very, very important because when you think about businesses, the idea of CSR is something that many people don't look at. And when you now look at it from the Scottish micro business, a lot of people know that SMEs are the engine of growth in Scotland. So it's very important that we examine it. And of course, in the next few minutes, Shaif will be providing his expert insights about this. But who is Shaif in the first place? I know many of you know him, but I would introduce Shaif. Sorry, I'm not really apologetic. I stole your bio. So I'm going to tell people who you are, the great things you're doing. So Shaif, Dr. Shaif Ahammed is a lecturer in business and management at the School of Business and Creative Industries in the University of the West of Scotland. Before joining UWS, he worked at Edinburgh Napier University. They're not as good as us, we're the best. And he worked there and also at UCL. He also gained his first degree in applied accounting with first class in 2011 and was awarded an MBA in 2015 and a doctoral degree in 2019. He teaches different modules in business and management, including strategic business projects, enterprise management, leading change, leadership, influencing organizational culture and change, and a lot, really. He is presently the program leader of the MS International Management and coordinates several modules. Prior to joining academia, he gained extensive experience working in retail, fashion retail. As you can see, Shaif knows how to dress. You can see his very good suit that he's wearing. Telecoms sector and the third sector in different managerial positions. He's interested in micro businesses, CSR, social responsibility, sustainability, business ethics, and higher education. Shaif supervises several doctoral students in multiple research areas, labor laws, CSR, entrepreneurship, and leadership. So it's a pleasure to have Shaif here with us today, who's an expert in CSR. So I will give Shaif the floor, and Shaif will be telling us much more. And after that, you will be able to ask Shaif questions about it. So thank you very much, Shaif.
Thank you so much, Dr. Christian Harrison, for such a nice introduction. I think it sounds more than what I am, but it's always good to hear from other people's mouth. Yeah. So I'll share the presentation and then let me. Right. So it is great to be here today. First of all, obviously, I'd like to thank Dr. Christian Harrison for the opportunity that he gave me today to present here regarding my topics, which is micro businesses, social responsibility. Obviously, this platform being used by many experts on different topics, including business management, literature, teaching and learning, and many other topics. Personally, I feel privileged to attend a number of the seminars as an audience for this research seminar. And today, like sharing my own view to the people who are expert in this field, expert in different fields, obviously, would be a privilege. So I would like to welcome you for next, say, 40 minutes. I'll try to minimize as much as I can and talk about micro businesses. And I'll try not to making it boring, and we'll avoid using any jargons to keep things simple for all of us. Today's topic is exploring social responsibility perspectives of Scottish micro operators. So the agenda is I'll share the objectives of the research, then I'll go into theories and methodology, how the methodology that I applied to collect data, to analyze data, and key findings, contribution of the studies, limitation at the end. We would have some Q&A session if you have any question, or if you want to advise me on anything, or if we can even do some collaboration in future. Right. So in our society, all businesses play a crucial role, as Dr. Christian Harrison said, to serve communities and stakeholders also, including the SMEs. And when we talk about corporate social responsibility, is very different for small and micro businesses compared to the large businesses. The topic is well discussed in developed countries, but in the context of SMEs, whenever we talk about a small business, we do not say micro business, a small business, medium business. We always say SMEs or small businesses. And we do not particularly focus the word micro businesses. Therefore, the purpose of this study is to investigate micro businesses' understanding of social responsibility and drivers to involve in social responsibility and the challenges of operating a socially responsible business in Scotland. Focusing on a Scottish business is very important, as they are both backbone of the Scottish economy and essential member of the communities across the country. Like you cannot imagine the lovely high street that we see without those lovely small micro businesses and the community that we live in. It is more blended to our community. So it's act like a person rather than a business. So it's very important segment of our community as well. Right. So the research objectives are to investigate the extent to which microbusiness operator understand and implement SR practices. When I say SR, it means social responsibility practices, because I thought it wouldn't be fair to say corporate social responsibility in this context. That I'll explain in the next slide why I used SR rather than saying any other words that are, or terminologies that are available, and to explore unique difficulties that micro businesses encounter when attempting to incorporate social responsibility business practices into their business operation. And number third, to identify key factors influencing the adoption of SR practice outcomes of social responsibility in micro businesses. Right. Now, by looking at this, let me do something because, right. By looking at this image, you can obviously know what I'm going to talk about, and I obviously explained is going to be micro businesses. But by looking at these images, can you feel something like connection between us and them? Because they are part of the community, as I mentioned, and is for hundreds of years like that. It's not been changed much in terms of how they interact to the society. Now, if you look into the UK, there are around over 5 million micro businesses, and the revenue is over 600 billion and provide over 21% of the overall employment in UK. While looking into this in a Scottish context, over 99% of all businesses that we have, that you see on different sectors, different places, that are SMEs. And out of those 99%, 94% of those are micro businesses and provide 28% of the employment in Scotland. Therefore, every business, every 100 business that you see, 94 of those are micro businesses, including physical business, online businesses, anything that you can imagine. Now, micro businesses can play a vital role in maintaining economic viability and social cohesion of many regions in the UK. Particularly if you look at rural and deprived urban communities, where they play a crucial role in terms of community, like in terms of communication, charity, different sorts of things they do. The lack of support for this group of businesses specifically decreases from the inability to find reliable definition of what a micro business is. Because we struggle to find the correct definition of what is micro businesses, we cannot create that customized support for them, because we all mix up between small, micro, medium businesses. And if you look at in different resources to identify a single definition, you won't come up with one. There are is more like if you ask someone defining leadership, everybody will come up with their own definition. Similarly, if you ask someone to define micro businesses, everybody would have their own way of explaining what micro business is. Therefore, there is no single accepted definition of micro business. And as a result, while defining micro businesses, different authors, organizations have used different metrics, such as number of employees, turnover, asset base, type of businesses that we have to define micro businesses. The local government association and Department of Business and Energy Industry and ONS officially classify businesses of 1 to 9 employees as being micro businesses. The definition devised by obviously European Union, as we were part of the European Union, and the way they define micro businesses, any organization with less than 10 members of a staff and has a turnover or balance sheet total less than 2 million, or in pound, say 1.7 million pound, would be considered as micro businesses. But if you look at the high street or different sorts of businesses, how many businesses has a turnover of 1.7 million? Not many, not many. Even if we know some businesses who has a turnover of 1.7 million, would you call them micro business? I have a doubt on that. And then if you look at the company house, they have a different definition. They came up with any business who has a turnover of less than 630K, they would be considered as micro businesses, or if they have a balance sheet total of 316,000, which sounds a bit more okay. And obviously less than 10 employees. Technically, when we say micro businesses, we means is a small businesses, a very small one, right? But the main difference between the two, if you look at the small and the micro, the number of employee. If the company employ fewer than 10 staff, it is micro businesses, not a small businesses. Now, as with the price of gas and electricity, everything going up, Ofgem, which is the Office of Gas and Electricity Market, who monitor the prices and who determine what would be the gas and electricity price in the UK, they come up with their own definition. They say if an organization use less than 100,000 kilowatt of electricity or less than 293 kilowatt of gas annually, they would be considered as micro businesses. So what I'm trying to say, everybody has their own way of explaining micro businesses. For the simplicity of this research, we looked at the number of employee criteria in this study, where we would consider any businesses with less than 10 employees as micro businesses. So for this research, any businesses who has less than 10 employees, we would consider them as micro businesses because it would be very difficult to verify their meter grids or their consumption of gas and electricity, or their balance sheet total, their turnover, all these sort of things, because it involves different arrangement that we need to do. Right. So we know now what is micro businesses, any businesses with less than 10 employees. Now, if I ask you what is social responsibility, or what is social responsibility for micro businesses, again, it's an area where it's not clearly defined for micro businesses, because we all talk about CSR. European Union defines CSR as the responsibility of business for their impact in society, including legislation, collective agreement between social partners, and complying with responsibilities. CSR is a well-researched topic, there is no doubt, but for large organization. Then what about the micro businesses or even small businesses? It is hard to understand if we look into the phenomenon from large business perspectives and apply different outcomes to the small businesses, because their challenges, their motivation, their reason for engaging in social responsibility is different compared to the large businesses. And it's normal because these are people driven. It's not sort of business where there are hundreds of people working. It's less than 10. So most of the businesses we came across are less than 5, 6 employees. So social responsibility in small businesses has not received much attention from the research perspectives. There are many differences between small and large businesses in terms of their resources, their size, and managerial style. Therefore, they have different managerial approaches to social responsibility, approaches to responsible businesses strategies are different in terms of their behavior to their community or their stakeholder. When we talk about social responsibility, as I said, we focus on CSR. Therefore, micro business, they do not feel that they are the people who will deliver the CSR. They often use different terminologies to say what is CSR for the big businesses. So they use words like responsible business practices, social or societal engagement, environmental involvement, beneficial relationship with the society and sustainable development, business sense, community involvement, and normal business practice. But what happened? We tried all these different terminologies while we have done our pilot interview. We came across that social responsibility was the most accepted terms among micro businesses in Scotland. Therefore, focusing on social responsibility, the word social responsibility, rather than discussing CSR, helps keep micro businesses in the mainstream of CSR discussion. They mostly use their common sense to run their businesses. They do not read books, articles. I wouldn't say they do not read, but they don't read to apply the knowledge into their practice. They adopt SR naturally without thinking, referring to their work as SR. Understand and awareness of this matter among small businesses are not wide enough, and they tend to explain SR in their own way. If you ask them what is social responsibility, they will explain it in their own way, words, in their way, what they are doing for their community or people, and engaging in informal social activities. They do not formalize it. Therefore, this research would play a crucial role, or played a crucial role, to explore the micro businesses' way to deliver social responsibility. So this is what is the social responsibility for this research. Now, during the thorough literature, I came across this stakeholder and legitimacy theory would be more appropriate theories for this research, because when business treats their stakeholder well, they get good return, including getting information, more customer, tax incentives, good employees. Therefore, it is important not only focusing on maximizing profit, but also to develop good relationship with related stakeholder. A small business relationship with a stakeholder are mostly informal. It's not formalized. They do not call them as a stakeholder, and characterized by personal engagement. If you go to a small business, you go there because you know that person behind the till, and you go and say hello, and they know your name. So it's more of sort of personal engagement while you compare it with large businesses. While stakeholder theory will emphasize on serving the interest of all relevant stakeholders, micro business perform it as giving back initiative. So it's giving back. They see it as a giving back initiative, using their skills and non-monetary resources to support their communities. So it's not always about giving money to the people, but they do all sorts of things. For example, giving donation, sponsoring local charity events, giving educational talks, all sorts of things they are doing. Therefore, I found it is relevant theory for the micro businesses to understand more about their different stakeholders. Also, if you look at the legitimacy perspectives, legitimacy theory is popular in theoretical perspectives of social responsibility research or researchers, because it provides a framework for understanding how micro business can be socially responsible while being legitimate in the eyes of the stakeholder. Serving the interest of all his stakeholders, including customer, employees, suppliers, you name it, is emphasized in stakeholder theory, while legitimacy theory will focus on large social structure in which organization operates, as well as the organization compliance with the social norms, expectation. Therefore, I found these two theories are relevant to this study. Right. Now, due to the nature of this investigation, because it's about understanding people's approaches to social responsibility and its sensitivity, I found that qualitative inquiry is the most credible approach for this study. I collected very rich data as part of the wider research to explore micro businesses' relationship with their wider society. And in this particular study, I provided a wider picture of social responsibility of micro businesses rather than providing a statistically valid analysis. So I used semi-structured interview as a method of data collection, where personal interaction was developed with participants to gather primary data. An interview guide was designed and improved at the early stage of the process. However, it has been improved over the time. The pilot study was carried out using the initial interview before finalizing the final interview guide for the fieldwork. The pilot interviews helped to check whether the questions were understood and whether the participants could answer them without hesitation, because sometimes there are a lot of personal information that are involved for this research. If this question was seen to sensitive, then obviously we had to remove it, and the literature review was improved after analyzing the pilot interview. So it was cyclic process. So we used the pilot interview, analyze it, see what has been missing, then look back to the literature, and improve the interview guide, then again another pilot interview. This is how we have done it for the 4 times. And as a result, final interview guide emerged from the combination of literature review and pilot interview. Pilot interview has not been used in this research, so we didn't use the data from the pilot interview. But we used rest of the interviews that we collected, which was 25 interviews we conducted. And purposive and snowball sampling was used to reach the sample population, and we approach to the only registered businesses, sole trader and limited company. We have not included self-employed people who do not have a physical shop, warehouse, office, for example, taxi driver. So it was only those businesses who are registered as a business. And I used thematic approach to analyze the data where themes were developed from the data. Right, so there was the snapshot of the research methodology. Now, instead of highlighting only the key findings, what I thought it would be interesting to see how each objectives comes up with the different findings. So to illustrate the findings of the study, I thought it would be a good idea to share how I achieved each objectives. And most micro businesses involved different activities within their local communities, including donation or donating to charities, supporting local schools, religious charity, sourcing local product, giving educational talk, like in the school, talking about different animals, like they take their if it is a pet shop or animal shop, they take those to the school and talk about it. Operating eco-friendly businesses, buying fair trade products, serving local community, and creating employment. And they do not address this as CSR. As I said before, they consider this as giving back to the community as their responsibility to the society where they operate. So the key word here is giving back again. So micro business operators view following to the government regulation as a key aspect of their social responsibility. I had some arguments with some other colleagues who are doing similar research in the area. They see I mean, regulation can't be part of the social responsibility. It has to be followed anyway, but I'll explain why I think that's the key findings. And many see compliance as a way to signal their commitment to the ethical and responsible business practices, which is in line with the legitimacy theory. For example, not selling knives to the kids, not selling cigarette or underage restricted product, alcohol, these sort of things they considered as a social responsibility, because some of the businesses where they are doing it, they are selling, all sorts of unethical activity. That's a different things to discuss. But this is why they see it as a social responsibility. It is emerged that most of the micro businesses do not expect any return from being involving in social activities. Therefore, they do not publicize their SR engagement, and you won't see that. They do not highlights, they do not publicize their work like the way we see for MNCs, multinational corporation, large businesses. They do always talk about it, there are different purposes why they are doing it, but the micro businesses, they do not do it, or most of them, they do not do it. Compliance is one of the determinant for SR or for micro business operators, such as paying tax, VAT, like that's they consider as social responsibility. However, in developing country context, in another research, I came across this in developing country context, it was in Nigeria, paying tax is not considered as part of their SR. And there is a reason why they don't see it. They see that paying tax is not a SR activity or social responsibility activities, because they think the government is not using their money to support people. However, in a Scottish context, they see that government actually using the money for the people. So that's why they feel it's a socially responsible activity. Most of the micro business consider their charitable activities, such as donating money, food, helping food bank, product as their SR, social responsibility, rather than any other activities. For example, recycling, or any other activities that you can imagine. So they focus, whenever I talk to them, they first come up with, oh, I donate money. So they see charity is a social responsibility. And social activities help them to make organization more legitimate in the society. This is how they see it. Therefore, getting legitimacy in the community is an external pressure for some of the micro businesses. They said, yeah, it's something we do because we feel we'll be more legitimate in the society, we'll get more customer. Now, they do face challenges as well to operate a socially responsible business. Few of the challenges are directly linked to their size and resources, because they're micro. They have limited fund, they have limited resource to deliver all sorts of things that they want to do. Time has been identified as one of the main barriers, like the academics, because they have to do all sorts of things. And most of them, out of 25 of them mentioned that time has been identified as one of the main barrier for becoming involved in social activities, because they do not find the time to do it, even though they want to do it. Because the main reason is that they are engaged in day-to-day operation. Most of the micro business owners or operators, they are engaged in day-to-day activities. And lack of support from other parties, such as recycling companies, local government, and government are a challenge to be involved in social responsibility, is due to the way they communicate with the micro businesses, because there is no customized service or product for micro businesses, because everybody talks about a small business or SMEs. They do not see how these tiny businesses are operating. Therefore, is hard to comply with those policies for micro businesses. And cost or financial abilities of participating in social activities is a huge challenge, because they find even donating £200 or £300 or support engaging some sort of activities as a dent to their financial performance or to their finance. Other interesting finding, which is authenticity of the charity organization, which we know there are a lot of scandal going on with the large charity organization, and many micro businesses do not trust those well-known charity organizations due to many issues that we came across in media, their finance, how they handle with their finance, and different sorts of things. Now, if I go to the next slide, right. So now, why then they are involving SR activities? What are the motivating factors? One of the most important thing that we came across, most of the micro business mentioned that they engage in social activities for religious reason. For somehow that was very very famous. I don't know why people were talking about religious, but I'll tell you why in a minute. And to utilize time for something good, giving back something to the customer, and promoting trade and personal satisfaction, and to sustain their business. And it emerged that most of the micro businesses were involved in social activities as part of their duty to society rather than to gain any benefit, which is for most of the large businesses to do that, to gain tax exemption and all sorts of benefit they expect from the government and from the customer. And it was observed that most of the micro businesses were concerned about their stakeholder, and they understand that importance of different stakeholders while they consider their social responsibility. Almost all micro business owners who are Muslim, by some reason, believe that religions drive them to engage in social activities as well as other drivers, for example, legitimacy, social commitment, compliance. So I looked at a research which was conducted in micro business perspectives in Nigeria, and they came across this Christianity was or religion played as a driver for involving in social activities. So I think it's because it's a qualitative research. I, as a person, they know I'm, Muslim somehow. Obviously, it's a quality. We talk about many things. That's why they might thought it would be something interesting to share with me. However, when I asked the similar question to the to the other beliefs people or other backgrounds people, they didn't say that religion is a key driver for them to involve in social activities. They were coming up with some sort of comments. For example, people goes to church on Sunday, but then doing all sorts of bad things throughout the week. So they believe it's not the reason why you involve in social responsibility. So yeah, so that was from the religious perspectives. And I looked into different sorts of hadith, Quran, to see actually what was going on in that area. That's a different thing I'm working on. Right. So how this research, why this research is important and how it would contribute to knowledge and policy. Firstly, the study provides a voluntary SR adopted by the micro businesses in Scotland, driven by personal values. Due to the Scottish multi-faith diversity, including Christianity, Muslim, Hinduism, Buddhism, atheism, and many other religion and faith, the study could not provide a solid outcome of micro business owners' view on SR. However, as some Muslim business owners were saying, it is one of the reason for their SR approaches. It contributes to the knowledge as a new findings in the Scottish context. I also able to identify some of the unexplored reason and challenges to operate an SR businesses in Scotland, which would be added to the knowledge, obviously. And legitimacy and stakeholder theory are dominant theory in the field of SR. We know that. Rather than exploring any other theory, we thought, and I thought it would be interesting to see how these two well-known theories can fit in the context of SR of micro businesses. And some of the key findings, including following compliance, paying tax, following government rules, help businesses to operate a SR businesses by addressing the relevant stakeholder. And our analysis, this analysis suggests that some of the micro business involved to these wider sorts of social activities to increase their legitimacy in the community, because it's important as their competitor, which is the large businesses, doing all sorts of things with the community. If we go to the Tesco, they are raising fund for local charity. So micro businesses are doing that too, to be legitimate in the society. I have delivered few lectures on micro businesses as such to undergraduate students at UWS, and it was well accepted by a student as they are part of the society, and all of them somehow employee, customer, owner, or supporter of these businesses. And discussing this from the theoretical point of view in the classroom would help to bring more researcher into the field of micro businesses and NSR. And I think that there can be module developed on particularly focusing on micro businesses on different relationships such as business ethics, social responsibility, and different things. Now, how it contributes to the policy. I think local and central government approaches towards micro businesses on burden of landfill tax, overcharging for recycling, because they were saying the amount of money they are being charged for recycling, they had to find alternatives, cheaper alternatives to actually cheat the system. So I think the local government and central government should think about how they can help those businesses and develop customized support for these businesses. And I came across that the well-known charity organizations are not always well accepted by local businesses, as I said, due to the lack of transparency on money handling. And it was interesting because after I completed my research, I came across that research conducted by Oscar, which is who deals with the charity or charity commission in Scotland. They found that charities in Scotland, the trust of charity in Scotland has dropped compared to 2020 by 0.22 to 6.8%. So one of the main reasons was that charities' financial behavior to trustworthiness. So it's actually interesting that they are struggling. They came up with similar finding. Therefore, I think these big charities need to think about how they can regain the trust from the communities, including the micro businesses. As I said, in different research come up with different ideas, such as developing countries, they do not think paying tax is socially responsible activities because they think the government is not using that money properly. However, in developed country context, it is. And I found that they believe paying tax is a responsible practice and government should take further positive steps to promote socially responsible businesses, including running campaign and training and all sorts of activities they can do. Because I came across that some of the businesses are finding that paying high tax is a burden for micro businesses because they're struggling to get their wages or salary. And most of the studies conducted were mainly on SMEs. That if you find CSR perspective or social responsibility perspectives or small businesses, but micro businesses were considered as part of those SMEs. Maybe one or two interviewees were SMEs on those researches. However, in terms of their characteristics, micro business are widely different from SMEs. If you look at the SMEs, they have 200 up to 250 employees, 43 million pound turnover. And you cannot put them in the same basket. Therefore, it is recommended micro businesses are not treated as being the small businesses or SMEs. Therefore, the government and different institutions, including HMRC, banks, Business Gateway, Federation of Small Business, local government, should provide assistance to encourage social responsibility in a way that is tailored to their operation and needs individual micro businesses. Like all the researches, there are some limitations, and I acknowledge those limitations. Firstly, geographical scope, as this study does not cover every single city and country or county in Scotland. And secondly, we did not cover all types of micro businesses, as these are very diverse in nature. There are different sorts of micro businesses. It's like different types of micro businesses as the different types of human being. So therefore, we cannot generalize the outcome of the study across the Scotland. In summary, our study has summarized an issue in the research perspectives that has been previously been overlooked by CSR literature, namely micro businesses in Scotland. So I think this research would create some sort of link between the researcher, a CSR researcher who are researching on CSR from different fields to focus on this area. Right. So thank you very much for patiently listening to this presentation, and I look forward to hear your views and any question that you may have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Shaif, for that lovely presentation. Very insightful, engaging, and it's good that we saw a lot of things that you've done with micro businesses. I think for me, the fact that it was difficult for you to come up with the definition for micro business in the first place, that took my attention. So either way, so it's now up to everyone here. I know Shaif has spoken quite a lot. So now, do you have questions for Shaif? What do you have to ask?
Should I stop sharing?
Please, you can stop sharing. So, any questions for Shaif? Okay, Cyril. And of course, and it's good to have Sabrina. I know Sabrina joined us. So, how are you doing, Sabrina?
Hello, everyone.
Yes,
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
That's great. Yes, so very nice.
Don't worry, I'm just saying hi. Don't worry, you don't need to ask any question. So
no, I have a question.
Okay,
I have questions to share. Yeah.
We'll come back to you. Don't worry, we'll come back to you. Let's start with Cyril. Then,
excellent. Okay.
Then you'll be the third person. Okay, now. So it's
right. Thank you, Dr. Krishnan. Thank you, Shai, for that really wonderful and insightful presentation. I found it very useful, given my research areas in certain ways do align with what you were saying. I was just curious to know, as you said, I mean, you're looking this from a CSR sort of literature point of view, when you said things were sort of overlooked. I was particularly interested in terms of theoretical base. You used the legitimacy side of things, but was there anything more in depth now, given the fact that you found certain linkages, I would say, in terms of religion and things which are quite exciting and sort of really diving into a whole different area of work? Do you think that means that there is more to it than what we can see in the surface from what you can see?
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting that you say that. So apart from using those two theories, what I have done, I have looked at, I don't know if you're Muslim, you would know, I would looked at Quran and Hadith. So Quran is what Allah said or God says, and Hadith is what Prophet said, about how business should be operated. So I looked at different sources from Islamic perspective. So there are actually, apart from those two theories, there are Islamic view on how microbusiness operate, because obviously due to, even though I don't know why, out of the 25, only say 10 of them were Muslim, but all of them like trying to say how religions and their family drives them to be socially responsible. So yes, I looked at religious perspectives as well. Yes, it's
okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Does that answer your question, or?
Yes, it does. Yeah, thanks.
I think, of course, I know a lot of questions, but I'll come back to that. But it was insightful when you said Nigerian people were talking about Christians and people were talking about Muslims. So I might come back to that. I want to more light into it. But I'll leave that. Let FIRs come in. So FIRs, then I think.
Thank you. Thanks. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you.
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Shaif, for a very beautiful presentation. That was great. Yeah, looking at, I've got a question on the stakeholders or stakeholder theory. You used some theory on stakeholders.
Yeah.
It's not stakeholder theory, it's something. Right. Of course, I could categorize your the stakeholders into like economic stakeholders, where you have got your banks, your customers, your suppliers, your distributors, and also social and political, where you would have your regulators, your local authorities, and your labor organizations or something like that. And then the communities. It's also another category where you have got local communities. My particular interest is in here. Local communities, lobbyists. You can also have lobbyists and non-governmental organizations and activists as part of the communities. And then you can also have other types of stakeholders like technology and so on.
Yeah.
Now, what role from your theory, that is, I know you have alluded to the contribution of social and political stakeholders when you were talking about research contribution. But what role do these stakeholders play towards the social responsibility decisions of these micro businesses?
Right. That's an interesting question. That's where the legitimacy comes in. Because so because these stakeholder, it's not from all the businesses who said that, but some of the businesses said yes, to be legitimate into the society, how you operate your businesses, how you're behaving to run your businesses, it is important. So to be legitimate is important. That's where I had to bring the legitimacy theory here to address that particular things that you're saying. So yes, they somehow influence the businesses to be legitimate into their operation. Is that
Okay? Yes.
is that
Great.
answer or no?
No, that is good.
Yes.
It
So
could
it's
be
legitimacy perspectives, apart from only from the micro businesses perspectives, how they are operating is how the stakeholder influence them to how they will be operating, or
yes,
how they will be to deal with their people.
because there's some kind of pressure from stakeholders on
Yeah.
them to make some
Yeah.
kind of social
Yeah.
responsibility decisions of some sort.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah,
thanks.
like to give an example, like I came across one of the micro businesses who did not have the minimum temperature that you need to have in the business. Like I think it's 20 degrees or something that it's a working temperature that you have to make sure that everyone is comfortable to work. So he didn't turn on the heater. He to save energy bills and everything. So that obviously that person who worked there is a community person, yeah, right? So from the same community, that person went out, said to the other person, and then people stopped going to their to that person's shop. So that's you can imagine how important it is that you balance what you can do or what you can't do. So yes, there is a pressure. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Afaz, and thank you, Shaif, for that.
Can I ask a question now?
Yes, Sabina, you've been nice to ask the questions.
Yeah, so
yeah.
thank you so much, Shaif. Brilliant presentation. Just one quick question, because I'm not used, as you know, I'm a computer science. So why have you chosen thematic approach in your research?
That's a good question, because the research actually, the way it was developed when I did the literature, I started with something, right? One theme. Then when I going to collect data during the pilot interview, they were talking about different sorts of themes that were emerging. So the research wasn't a straight line. It was like going back and forth, like between the literature and pilot interview, and looking at what is emerging from the data. So I think the thematic approach was the best approach, because some of the themes already developed from the literature and some new themes emerge through the data collection. So that was the main reason why I choose thematic data analysis. And then coding, that helps me to come up with new open coding, selective coding, that helps to come up with other themes. So thematic approach was the best approach, because it was cyclic process rather than a straight line. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Excellent.
Welcome. Thank you, Sabrina.
Thanks, Sabrina.
Can I come in here?
I think
Mustain.
Bernard, after Bernard, I know Mustain, don't worry. After Bernard,
Oh, fine. Okay.
Don't worry, Mustain. We'll give you a time.
That's fine.
We'll change your name now. So Bernard.
Thank you, Shaif. That was a very good one. I enjoyed it. So I've got two questions. The first one is, how did you make sure that as a Muslim you weren't biased with collection of the data? Because I could see there were some religious perspectives there. So I'm talking about reflexivity. How did you manage that? And the second question is, do you think that the government can do anything practically to push these micro businesses to involve themselves in social responsibility, i.e. maybe they can minimize their tax, they can encourage them by minimizing their tax responsibilities or something? Do you think such practical approaches could help social micro businesses in that direction? So
thank you so much, Bernard. These are really powerful questions. I would say first one is qualitative research somehow is subjective, but how I ignore the bias. Number one, I think the number of Muslim business owners in the research or religious people were less than 50%, right? So I asked the similar questions to the rest of the people. Do you think your personal belief, or you think somehow your religious belief influence you to involve in the socially responsible activities? But most of the other believers or non-religious followers, they said no. So I make sure that I ask the similar question to rest of the participants, not just to the Muslim business owner, because Muslim business owner were saying it because they thought I'm one of them, so they felt comfortable to say it, right? So that's how I managed to ensure that there is no bias involved in the data. The second question, what government can do to promote micro businesses to involve in SR activities? So what they are doing at the moment, if you look at the definition, that's why I put so much focus on the definition. They call it SMEs. So whatever the policy they are developing, most of the policies ask for SMEs generally categorized, rather than particularly focusing on micro business or a small business or medium business, So that sometimes somehow we ignore those who are like one person running businesses. Most of the corner shop you go, 1 or 2 person running the business, or maybe owner, or maybe Bernard yourself, you do some research on family businesses, so they are very much family driven, family values driven businesses. So yes, so I think there should be different policies for those businesses, and that policy should be communicated well enough with those businesses by local government through different business organization, trade union, to make sure that they know what they can get from the government. Other things is, I think, if you look at the VAT threshold, for example, 84K, I think at the moment is the VAT threshold. If you go over that, you pay VAT. So that threshold is very low. One person wages, if you think one owner can take 30K of the salary, to make 30K, the business has to make a turnover of over 100K. So already businesses has to involve in unethical activity instead of involving in social responsibility, So these sort of things the government should address, that how we can customize our policy for those businesses.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks very much, Bernard, for that. And of course, thanks, Shaif. We're running out of time. Don't worry, Mustaine, you still have 2 minutes.
Yeah, I need to jump over to another meeting at 2 o'clock. Yeah,
2 minutes.
So Shaif is an interesting and brilliant presentation. I really liked it, and I think more precisely here you really defended like the micro area, right? Micro business areas, rather than, so because it's the market is saturated with CSR practices anyway. So I was just wondering, is because you mentioned somewhere that's 95% of the micro businesses that you have identified in local area in Scotland. So I would be wondering if, whether you can think we can funnel it in 2 different ways, like service-based or production-based. So try to understand the impact. So how much impact we have in this CSR practice really have in this context that you're talking about. Because I think I see it is a bit differently. So first of all, I see, oh, hold on. So I have got like, even though it's 95%, but what is the aggregated kind of pollution or production, or what kind of things is impacting on the local community, local society, or kind of how much percentage of well-being in risk, or human well-being, or kind of hunger level in the area that will have a really profound impact on this kind of investigation. So I'm just thinking, that perspective, that if we can identify kind of assessment from that perspective, that whether, so even though if you think of this kind of sample I have taken, or the number of associations that involved within these micro businesses, the impact really, really negligible, or is huge comparatively to the large and small businesses within this context. And this is how I'm contributing a lot. And this is a robust area to look into. So that was my kind of observation.
Yeah, excellent. No, thank you. I'll take your comment and see what can be done, obviously, in part of future research to look into how why their contribution is more, in which area they are contributing, what you mentioned. Yes, that can be something done in future. Yeah.
All right.
Great. Thanks very much for staying. And it's 1 minute past 2. I would have asked more questions, but I don't want us to go beyond. I promise we'll end close by 2. So let's try to do that. Maybe we'll have a discussion offline, Shaif. But it's great. I think it was a great presentation. Well done. It was great to see microbusiness. I think, like Mustin rightly pointed out, a lot of emphasis has been on SMEs, but many people have not looked at micro businesses. So it's great that you're the forerunner in that space. And when you look at social responsibility or CSR, what does it really mean? Of course, a lot of people do it as a checklist, while some people do it for religious purposes, while some people just do it because they want to do it. So it's great to understand the challenges that people face and also their lived experience as well. But either way, thanks everyone for coming. Thanks for the engagement. Thanks for the questions that you all asked. It was great having everybody here today, despite your busy schedule. Like I said, these things it's not easy because of today with the holidays, but it's great to have everybody here. I think in the next 2 weeks, we'll be having another presentation that will be from an external speaker. So watch this space. On behalf of the school, I'd like to tell you thank you. And Isuru said, great work, Shaif. So I think that's how we're going to end it. Great work, Shaif, and well done. So have a nice time. For those of you that are having holidays, have a great holidays. For those of you that celebrate Easter, have a nice Easter break and see you in the next 2 weeks. Take care and bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. See ya. Bye now.